Not sure if the internet is going to hold on this one. Actually, I wasn't sure if it was even going to let me start streaming. But let me make a quick post letting people know I'm live. And then we'll get started. And hopefully I can at least get far enough to show you guys the new carders. I'm very excited. They came in today. Been thinking about it like literally since I got the notification. Okay. All right, we'll see if anyone decides to join us. So, let's see. These are the new carders, and they're very fancy looking. Not sure how well you can really see the teeth on here, but they're pretty fine. For comparison, this is my normal carders. These are like 70 TPI, teeth crunch. Whoa, okay. My cat rolling into the computer. I probably should have known that was going to happen. Anyway, these are the new ones. These are the old ones. And not only are they quite a bit cleaner, but they're also like way bigger, which I wasn't expecting. I guess I should have expected them, but I wonder if I got the student size cards last time. Because I thought they'd be the same size. Again, not that I'm complaining, just confused. And I probably would have paid less for a smaller size if I realized, but that's fine. That's not a problem at all. That just means I can make more punis more easily, I hope. Okay. And I also managed to dig out some of my cotton. So here's some Egyptian cotton sliver. This is what I first bought the very first time I got anything cotton. And then this bag right here has some gind cotton, which I got at a local fiber festival a couple of years ago. So I want to try doing like carding both of these, but I am 99.9% sure that this gind cotton is going to make incredibly beautiful, incredibly even cotton thread, and this is going to continue making technically spinnable but not very good cotton thread, because that's how it's been on my 70 TPI carders. So that's what I'm expecting. I think the main difference is that the staple length of this is a fair amount longer. And it's also, it feels higher quality. I don't know. There's not really any way to know if it's higher quality, like without really knowing the source of the sliver, but yeah. Either way, I think I might have to move my computer though, because my cat looks like she wants to roll even more. And that worries me. Maybe I could. I had just gotten all perfectly set up, and then, yeah, my cat set up again. All right. So I'm assuming that this is going to be similar to using my other cards. But I don't know. I had a lot less practice with cards at that point, and also the punis that I made were pretty bad. And I don't really remember what I did, so I'm just gonna sort of do what my intuition tells me to do and try not to ruin all of my cotton. I think it'll be fine. But I'm going to start with less than it looks like it can fit. And then maybe I'll add some more. Like, I don't really want to overfill it. I don't know. I don't know what overfilled is at this stage, though, so that's sort of the problem. Like, all I know is that when I card cotton on my 70 TPI combs, I don't get great results. It's spinnable, but it's almost impossible to get a super even thread. So, yeah, I don't know. Okay. Oh, that's been totally out of frame. This is also going to be largely out of frame, but okay. This to be easy. So far, not very easy. I definitely forgot that you shouldn't put it that close to the sides, so I'll pull some off the sides. Mostly it's getting, okay, good. I was gonna say, mostly it's just getting stuck deeper in the tines, which is terrifying. But turns out you just gotta do the classic roll technique. By classic roll technique, I mean just what I do. That's how I typically like for whatever reason, when I'm carding, and I guess this carries over from my cotton cards to my normal cards, but the angle at which you're actually like combing or carding rather matters a lot. If you do like a rolling motion, you'll pull the fiber up, and if you do more of a straight across motion, then you'll actually card it. It's supposed to be on my lap. Yeah, that said, this actually is not easy at all. I was hoping it'd be easier. I'm positive it will get somewhat easier with practice, but I was hoping it'd be a lot easier. But it is cleaning it up pretty nicely. It's not removing any seeds, which makes sense because the teeth are incredibly close together, so that's just not going to happen. But like the bits that I've managed to fully card are looking really nice, so I think that's promising. The problem is actually like working the stuff that's a little farther back on the card is pretty difficult. I don't know. There's always a learning curve with these things. I think it took me at least a couple days of frequent use on my hand cards the first time, like the first pair of hand cards I ever bought, to actually make a roll lag that was any good. So, I mean, hopefully the learning curve's not quite that steep this time because I currently have a limited amount of cotton. I do have 2 pounds, but it's not here yet. Also kind of afraid of damaging the tines, which is stupid because I damaged the tines on my other cards and they work just fine. So it's not, I'm sure it's a non-issue, but nonetheless. I'm not sure whether I need to go like fully and completely clean and smooth, which this isn't, or if I can get away with leaving it a little bit lumpy. Because when you like when I actually start rolling it up and I make it into a puni. Chuck, come on, man. She's like rolling directly into the path of my computer. Anyway, when I actually make this into a puni, I'm gonna be like drafting it out more and combing it through the tines even more. So I think it'll get to this stuff that's farther down, but I'm not sure. And I don't necessarily want to waste it. Give me 1 second. I need to I seriously need to reposition Chuck. She's gonna destroy my laptop. I know, the indignity. The indignity. It's fine. Okay. Okay. Maybe I'll give it another couple passes just to see, just to make sure. And I also might try adding some fiber because I do know that, yeah, I'm gonna add some fiber. I know that on like when carding wool on my normal combs, on my normal cards rather, if you have too little, it's as bad as if you have too much. Like it causes different problems, but it definitely causes problems. So I wonder if this will get easier just by adding a little more. I think figuring out how much I need on these is going to be key. Especially because I'm gonna, like, I want to make thread. So that's what I have been making. So any mistakes, I'm gonna spend the next several hours spinning them. So yeah, we'll have to see. That's getting a little easier. Or at least it feels a little more effective. I think adding a bit more is helping. It's also really tiring though. So I think once we do one, we're gonna move to the spinning phase at least for a little bit to give my arms a break. I don't do a lot of carding these days because it's pretty difficult, pretty labor intensive. I really should have gone for the smaller size because I think that like just in terms of making it physically easier, I think that would have helped. But it's too late now. I cannot return these. So yeah. It's really difficult to get this stuff off the front, which is odd because that's not usually where things get stuck in my experience. Usually they get stuck at the back, but on these they get stuck at the front. Oh, hello. I am carding cotton. Yeah. We're testing out my new carders. They are big. They are way bigger than they're meant to be. This is the size I thought I was getting. This is the size of my normal hand cards, and this is the size of my cotton cards. But it is working. This is the first roll lag that I'm going to try. Sorry, not roll lag. The first puni that I'm going to try to remove. I think I've gotten it good enough. I don't know. This is pretty experimental for me because the last time I did this, I didn't know very well what I was doing. So yeah, they're big. So you can all laugh at my puni rolling technique in a moment here. It is getting it really nice and soft. But I think I need to use less of the cards next time. Um, I also might need some longer knitting needles. We'll have to see. Okay. Hmm. You know, it's good to feel like a beginner again sometimes. It really keeps you humble. I feel like a fucking idiot right now. Like I have no clue what I'm doing. I don't really know why the middle is just not getting anything. Um, yeah. Ugh. I also want to see, like, one of the things I want to experiment with is to see how easily I can recard these because I'm hoping it's very easily. Because I anticipate that my first couple of Rolex, my first couple of punis rather, are going to be pretty bad. You won't judge, you've never made either. Well, I appreciate it. I'm judging myself pretty heavily. If I do some more on camera, I will try and get better angles, but for the first one I am kind of requiring all my concentration just to do it. So I think another thing I'm noticing is that it actually is working a lot better the farther down the card I go. Like it's drafting out a bit easier. So I might be able to take that into account somehow. I don't know. We're almost done though. Is there a proper difference between Rolags and punis? I just know punis are for cotton. That is the difference for the most part. You you will rarely see punis being used to refer to like a wool thing, anything made of wool. The only time you will see that is if it's like a puni style Rolag, and that means that they are drafting it out the way that I was just doing, where you're pulling and rolling. For just a Rolag, you just roll. You don't draft it at all. So a puni is um, it's much more dense, much more compacted, which is what you need for spinning cotton and not what you need for spinning wool. Some people will, like, there might be some reasons that you would want to do that, such as if it is a really short staple length, it might make it easier to spin. Um, and some people do it just because that's simply what they like, or because they think that's the proper way to make Rolex, or because it's easier that way. Like, you might find Puni style Rolex that are made of wool, but I don't think you can really properly call something made of wool a puni, even if it looks like one. I don't know. That's my opinion, which is really not relevant. Um, I think the only like relevant opinion would be somebody who spun an awful lot more of them than I have. So, all right, this is feeling promising in comparison to the other ones I was making. It's like for one thing, it's literally it's stiff enough that it's sort of staying despite gravity, which was not the case for the other ones. And it's very soft and it looks fairly even. My other ones were all pretty lumpy. This isn't too lumpy. So I have hope. Oh, chuck. All right. I literally thought I moved everything easily and perfectly within reach. before starting the stream, and now that I'm on the stream, I'm like, oh, nothing is easily within reach. Perfect. I'm definitely gonna have to readjust where the computer is at for this, and maybe find something for it to sit on. Looking around at things within reach. Failing to see anything I can put it on. Sorry, I'm sure this is not terribly interesting. Have to be something to raise this up a little. I think that'll work. You could wait, you're finishing flying at the same time. Oh, nice. What are you making? Other than yarn, obviously. I can actually face the camera for once. So this is obviously just pre-drafting a tiny bit so that I can get it on the spindle. And I'm going to be using one of my minis again. Just a 2-ply, you had 3 uneven balls that were sitting there. Nice. I feel like I often end up getting some of my favorite yarns from just like plying random things to finish them. I hope yours turns out nicely. Oh yeah, this is promising. So from that diameter of untwisted fiber, I've gotten that diameter of twisted fiber, which is good. That means it's very compact. That's exactly what I want. Yeah, it is. And that's just the pre-drafted part. It should get even thinner once I'm actually spinning. Typically, the little bit that I pre-draft as a leader is quite a bit thicker than the rest of the yarn. So, come on. There we go. I hope I twisted that the right way. That's the bit I always forget. Getting started with cotton is a little bit fiddly, I always find. Like at this point, getting started with wool is really not fiddly, it's just whatever, but getting started with cotton is not easy. Oh, Chuck, really? Okay, that's not gonna work. Yeah, I already had to move this a whole bunch of times because she kept rolling on it. Now I will have to move it again. Bro, come on, man. Can I put it? I tried using my phone. I got a phone mount, and I found like a good setup and everything, and then it turns out that for whatever reason, YouTube doesn't let you stream off phones specifically unless you have 50 subscribers, which I don't, and I'm not even really close to that, so that's not gonna work. But I don't know. It seems weird to me. Like I can do it on my laptop, which has much worse quality. Why not on my phone? Yeah, maybe at some point. The other option is just to get like an actual camera, which would be a lot more expensive than the free phone mount that I found at work. So okay. Wow. It just looks so much nicer already than the other stuff that I was spinning. That's a weird rule. Yeah, it is. And I mean, the main thing is that it specifically says like that I don't have enough followers to do live streams, but then it doesn't say that on the computer. Like they could also word it in a less confusing way, I think. Wow. This is this is so nice. I should have bought cotton cards so many years ago. If only I had known. Maybe if Chuck gets up, I'll be able to put the laptop back where it was. But as you can see, can you see? I guess my hand's in the way. As you can see, sleeping, sleeping and rolling. So, got that. Hang on. That's thread weight. That's much better. Now the dilemma is that I actually need to get it even thinner than that for a 2-ply thread weight. And ideally I want to do a 3-ply thread weight, so I would need to get like half the diameter. And then we're running into issues of it's too thin for me to see. It's very hard to spin things that are too thin for you to see, let me tell you. Like seeing things actually helps an awful lot. You're delighted by how itty bitty my spindle is. Well, thank you. This is my tiniest spindle. I think. I'm pretty sure it's the smallest of my cotton spindles. I really like this guy. It used to be about 2 inches longer, and then I chopped off the bottom, and I still do not know what my reasoning was behind that. It has not improved it as a spindle. Like, it's hasn't made it worse necessarily, but it also did not in any way improve it. So I wonder if I was like just trying to make it smaller, which worked if so. I honestly cannot get over how easily this is drafting, how thin it's drafting, how I have yet to encounter a single slub. It's so nice. I wonder if I could spin this on my wheel, actually. Like, the other preps that I've gotten, there's no way I could spin them on the wheel without just a lot of misery. But this is so compacted down and so so strong that I bet I actually could spin this. Not not on my or not on my e-spinner for sure, but on my treadle wheel, I think I might be able to. So I'll have to give that a try too, because that would be kind of a game changer if so. I think given that much more talented people and more practiced cotton spinners than I use charcoal wheels for this, it's obviously possible. The question is it possible for me? Two different questions, you know? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. And it's like charcas are one-handed, right? Like I've never actually used one. I've seen them used before. If I remember correctly, you're spinning the wheel with one hand, and then you're sort of doing like a great wheel long draw type situation, it seems, to actually like draft out the yarn. That was my impression the last time that I watched somebody spinning on a charka, which is, I mean, I cannot imagine. It must take a lot of skill indeed. I guess typically speaking, you're not necessarily spinning cotton thread, you're just spinning cotton. I'm sure that makes it a bit easier, but nonetheless. Yeah, the suitcase and bicycle ones are so cool. I don't think I've ever seen a charco wheel that wasn't like delightful. I saw one made of cardboard at one point, and it was like it was a beast. It had no problems, it seemed. Gosh, this is so nice. I wish, as always, that the resolution was better. If I can get it so you can see how thin it is. Possibly not. Probably not. I was going to use my phone to light it up, but my phone is not within reach. Yet another thing that I put well out of reach before I started streaming. Oh, well, gosh. I'll take some pictures though. Like, this is it's so nice. I'm really glad that I practiced though, because it took me like a good half hour or so of spinning the garbage prep ones to get to, I don't know, to get to thread weight, I guess, like to feel like I really remembered what I was doing again. And I think if I tried doing this, having not spun cotton in several months, I would be a little sad instead of incredibly happy, which I currently am. So this is so nice though. I've already gotten to the point where it's difficult to see. Part of that is because the light in here is off. Um, but that's often the case when I spin. I do a lot of spinning when I have a migraine, and I don't want the lights on when I have a migraine. So, but yeah, I can basically only see it if I have it doubled up right now, which does say more about my eyesight than it says about the thread, perhaps. But I'm pretty impressed. T-shirt that says "I love simple machines." That's the T-shirt for me. Definitely need that. Spinning in the dark is doable, but it's so hard to QC, which guessing stands for quality check, or yeah, true if so. Yeah. Yeah, for real. Especially like, I don't know. I think if you can feel your way through it, if it has enough texture and it's like a good weight that you can easily feel, um, then it's not as hard. But when it's also kind of fine enough that you can't really feel it, um, that's quite difficult. Like I can feel that there's thread against my fingertips as I'm doing this, but I can't I can't really tell anything more than that. And sometimes I can't feel that there's thread if it gets to the finer spots. So yeah, it's difficult. My hubris is working against me somewhat, as it often does. There is this one, like back when my migraines first started getting really, really bad, and I'd had a migraine for about a week that was not going away. And it was so bad that I was pretty much having to blindfold myself constantly because just like the ambient light anywhere, even with my eyes closed, was too much. So I blindfolded myself. I prepared some yarn or some wool while blindfolded, which was my first mistake of many. And then I sat down to spin it, also while blindfolded, and found that one, untangling yarn that has jumped the hook onto the like flyer thing when you're blindfolded and have a migraine is really hard and frustrating. It was the first thing I learned. And then the second thing I learned was that I forgot to pre select the colors before blindfolding myself. I just, it was just random, very bad colors. And the third thing I learned was that uh, the yarn was totally unusable. Usually I can, like, even a bad yarn I can make into something. Not this one. I still have it because I've not done anything with it because it is unusable. Like, the really bad migraine does not help your spinning skills, but the blindfolding, not, it did not work for me. I think I'd have better luck now because I've done a lot more spinning with my eyes shut since then, but I don't know how much better I've actually got. There's so many hubris myths about fiber work for a reason. That's true. Anyway, yeah, don't spin blindfolded with a horrible migraine. That's what I learned. Do I keep it as a reminder? No. I keep it because I don't know what else to do. I mean, I guess I could throw it away, but I'd feel bad. The only thing I really can do with it is respin it somehow. So either I'd need to chop it up to respin it, or I'd need to chop it up, I guess. I was gonna say I could probably draft it out, but there's some spots where it ran super, super thin. So I'd literally just need to cut it into pieces or tear it into pieces and then card it again and then respin it. And it's not nice fiber, so there's not really any point in doing that. I don't know. Maybe at some point I'll be able to make a cat toy that my cat. I don't know. Maybe at some point I'll be able to make a cat toy that my cat can destroy, and then I'll finally be able to throw it away. Put it in a shadow box frame. I mean, I could. I could, but I feel so ashamed. I'd have to put like a decent yarn next to it so that my ego isn't like 100% fully and completely destroyed. That's the only hand spun yarn of mine that I saw regularly. I would not feel good about myself. It's truly quite awful. Like, it's far worse than my first ever hand spun yarn, which was shockingly bad. I thought it was a normal first hand spun yarn. Like, I was like, well, everybody's first one's bad, right? No, no, not that bad. That one I don't have anymore. A yes and a no for each. Yeah. I could do a shadow box and like a hammer next to it, and then yeah. I could do a shadow box and like a hammer next to it, and then like break glass in case of bad yarn emergency sign. Could do something like that. But truthfully, I never want to look at it again. It's hideous. Yours were bad. I mean, I do think bad is incredibly subjective. I guess like the real question is maybe it was bad, but was it usable for anything at all? Because mine wasn't. Like, mine was a waste of fiber. not actually a waste because I learned a lot, but in terms of what you can do with it, literally a complete waste of fiber. Yours were definitely not possible to make stuff out of for sure. Well, okay, that makes me feel a little better, thanks. That's what mine were like too. Everyone else's hand spun that I see, like first hand spun that I see, and then also the people that I've taught, their hand spun always so much better than my first ones, like by a lot. Which I mean, it's especially when I'm teaching, that's a good thing because it means that I can very genuinely say, "Wow, that's like 100 times better than my first hand spun." So you're definitely like you can definitely get there. Um, but it didn't like at the time after making my first hand spun. I think I went and showed it to my mom, and I was like, "Look what I made," and she was like, "What is it?" And I was like, "It's yarn." And then she said, and I quote, "It's supposed to be yarn." So yeah, maybe I could crochet it into an extremely or into a sad little extremely nubbly pot holder or something. I could do that, but I have to look at it. Your maybe second one you kept in an 8 knot and you like to keep it in your pocket to fidget with. It barely looks like yarn though. That's a cool idea, honestly. It's quite nice. Yeah, it was rough. It is much easier if someone's teaching you, I think. Which, well, I guess it's kind of hard to know, personally speaking, because I wasn't taught. I was entirely self-taught, spinning anyway. But like, I have seen if I'm like hanging out with baby spinners, and they've never spun with another person before, and they get some like in-person pointers from somebody who's a little bit more experienced. So I do imagine that with a teacher, it's much easier, which is that makes sense. Debugging is so hard with spinning before you really know what you're doing. Basically got a 30-second spindle goes around crash course and then was turned loose. I didn't even get that. Um, at the time, I didn't have very good internet, and I remember trying to watch videos and they like just wouldn't even load. So I sort of gave up on even trying to watch spinning videos and was just sort of trying to puzzle it out. Like, how could I use this object that I don't understand how it works at all to make yarn? And I had a Turkish spindle too, which um, I think I spent like 2 or 3 hours just trying to figure out how to put it together. They're not difficult to put together. I've recently realized I'm a very slow learner, so that's probably why it took me so long to put together. But yeah, I I struggled for I struggled to even like make shitty yarn for a good 6 months. And then once I figured it out, I rapidly got much better. But those first 6 months were rough. That's a fair point about like not when you're not being watched, it's easier. That's definitely true. I mean, I feel like I mess up spinning when people are watching in real life, thankfully not on stream. But like if I'm spinning and then somebody's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" and wants a little demo, suddenly I can't spin at all, which is always embarrassing. You also learned via the nice fiber arts people at Ren Fair handing you a spindle and not letting you give it back, so the free wool attached to it was fully in the grease. Uh, but yeah, I don't think that would help either. That sounds hard. I don't know where I stand on spinning in the grease. I'm often spinning partially in the grease because I'm not typically going to rewash something that somebody has already washed. Like, as long as the dirt is largely gone, I don't care that much about whether or not there's lanolin on it. And I've spun an awful lot um, of fleeces that were not fully washed, and so they were in the grease. And like, I don't know, it's sometimes it can be easier. Mostly, I don't really like the stickiness, but it's not terrible either. Like, it's not usually a huge difficulty. But that said, I also never ever spun in the grease as a pure beginner. So yeah, there's definitely like a specific level of lanolin that I enjoy, and I know that because I've reached it a couple times just by accident. Um, and then like actually trying to get that specific level of lanolin the next time I wash a different fleece is kind of impossible because each breed, each individual fleece is going to have different amounts of lanolin on it. So like it's not like a use this amount of dish soap to this much wool type situation. So it's difficult to get it right every time or get it perfect every time. Not too hard to get it right, but to get it perfect is hard. Have I mentioned how nice this prep is? I'm so pleased with it. It's so soft too. It's the same cotton that I've been spinning recently. Like this is just the gin stuff that I already had, and um, I just spun a fair amount of it on my like from a puni that I made on my normal hand cards, and it was nowhere near this soft. So I don't know what the hell these cotton cards did, but they are making it softer somehow, which is certainly appreciated. It was already pretty soft to begin with, though. It's crazy the difference between commercial cotton yarn and hand spun cotton yarn. Like, it's insane. The sort of yarn that you can buy at Michael's, like dishcloth cotton, it feels like literally a completely different fiber. And I still don't really understand why. Because both mercerized and mercerized cotton, no, mercerized and unmercerized cotton, I find them both to be very scratchy and unpleasant. And I really don't understand the difference between that and my hand spun, but the hand spun is so soft and nice. Where did I get the fiber from? Where do you get cotton? This particular stuff that I'm spinning right now, I got at a fiber festival. The stuff that I have, um, like that hasn't been delivered yet, I just got on Etsy. I honestly recommend Etsy as a fiber market source. I guess I find that it has a really wide selection, and especially once you know what to look for, like it's pretty damn good and consistent. But I do recommend buying small amounts until you get a hang of like what is legitimate and what's not on Etsy. Um, I mean, it's good practice to buy a small amount of fiber just anytime you switch to a new seller, because some of them are not necessarily honest or knowledgeable and might be like lying simply because they don't know. So, but yeah, Etsy's pretty good. Etsy's my favorite. I don't know if I don't know if it's the smoothness that's has changed because like this is fairly smooth. It's a little toothsome, but it's mostly smooth. Um, but it's not scratchy. That's the difference. Is I guess I find commercial cotton to be scratchy and hard, and this is sort of neither. It's got to be something to do with like the spinning process, I suppose. I don't know. Like I have a couple of cotton sweaters that I bought, and I have a really hard time wearing them because if I put pressure on anything that's covered by that cotton sweater, like for example, if I have my sleeves down and I put my elbows on the desk, I get like the texture of the yarn embedded in my skin, and it's very painful. And that's not something that happens with any other fiber, just cotton. I'm hoping I can make a cotton sweater out of my hand spun and it'll be more comfortable, but certainly not out of this thread. That's a thicker cotton project for sure. I'm really curious how this spins up as a thick yarn too. I haven't done any intentionally thick cotton spinning ever, and I'm guessing that I will not be good at it, so I don't necessarily want to do it for the first time on stream. Like I've done it unintentionally and it was bad, but I haven't done it intentionally or well. I also find like the more that I spin, and I think this is just a fairly common experience spinner problem, but the more that I spin, the thinner my yarn gets and the harder it is to spin thick yarn. Like increasingly so. I'm getting to the point where it's difficult to spin like a worsted weight 3-ply in wool, much less a worsted weight 2-ply. And I remember like there was a while there in the first couple of years of my spinning where worsted weight 2-ply was like my go-to. I could do it really easily and really well. And now, like, no way. I'd have to concentrate really hard, which kind of sucks because like I do like working with worsted weight. It goes by really fast. I don't really know how to mitigate that either. It's a problem I've seen a lot of experienced spinners talk about, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about a solution. Like either you tough it out to spin thicker or you don't, and it just is what it is. Honey chalk. Pause to pat the chalk. She is finally appreciating the rabbit fur stuffed rat that I made her. Finally, I made it like 6 months ago. And I think she's only now appreciating it because I started using it to rub silver vine catnip on her scratching board. Because it comes in like a dust basically, so you have to use something to put it on. So I've been using her cat toys because then it makes her play with them a little bit more. And I've recently found her just like trying to rip that thing to shreds, and it's actually holding up really well. So rabbit fur cat toys for the win, it seems. Yeah, it's very cute. Even on a heavy spindle? That's a good point. I don't have any heavy spindles anymore. I definitely used to have them, and then I've either given away or broken all of them and not ever replaced them with more heavy spindles. So I don't know. I guess I should try that. The problem is I can't really use drop spindles anymore. Like I can use my miniature drop spindle okay, but anything else really messes up my shoulders. And heavy supported spindles are not really a thing for a reason. But that said, it might be like it might be worth trying just to see. Recently spun some 3-ply sock yarn for a friend, and it was so hard to get it to not be thread weight. Yep, that's where I'm at too. Like I literally spin thicker for sock yarn, you know? Don't stand on that. It's like I'm famous. I can do whatever I want, such as stand on laptop screens, which is untrue. Kick spindle type thing, that would definitely, that's outside the bounds of what I can do. I wonder, like, I don't know. I wonder if a kick spindle would help make thicker yarn. I don't think it would necessarily. I feel like a kick spindle is sort of just a wheel, but shaped differently. I don't know. Yeah, there definitely are big supported spindles, but um, yeah, yeah, as you're saying, they're used differently, and they're used in a way that is like ergonomically not doable for me, if that makes sense. Like I don't know how obvious it necessarily is, but the way that I use a supported spindle is not how most people use supported spindles. Most people use like they'll do um, one high energy flick and then spin off of that for a couple of seconds. I don't do that. I do like one fairly low energy flick, and then I'll spin just a tiny bit and draft out like an inch at a time. Uh, the reason I do that is that it's a lot easier on my hands. Like I can spin the other way, it just doesn't really work for me very easily. It's a lot more painful. So I I don't know. I think the way that I use them is much more conducive to smaller spindles and really conducive to bigger ones. You do that too. Interesting. Did you learn it from me? I've never seen anybody else spin like this unsupported. I'm curious if you came up with that, like if you came up with the way of doing it yourself or saw other people doing it. If you saw me doing it, that would be really fun to me. I encountered my first slub half an hour in, actually like 45 minutes in, and it disappeared. Easily dealt with. Very nice. Yeah, I'm not even sort of, I'm heavily limited at this point with what I can use in terms of spinning to only the stuff that is like, that used to be super easy for me, and now it's still kind of hard. Or now it is kind of hard, I guess. So I kind of, there's a lot of things that I would love to try, but I simply can't. So you just can't figure out how to spin supported the right way, so you developed your own method. Yeah, that's fair. This is also like it's definitely um, easier and requires a little bit less like control than the sort of long flick method. And I don't know, I struggle with control due to the disability, so that makes sense. That's cool that we have the same spinning style though. I didn't know anyone else did. This is growing so slowly, which is a good thing because it's growing so slowly because it's fine. Like it's incredibly fine, but also the fact that it's growing so slowly is like, oh my god. Definitely no thread weight sweaters anytime soon, let me tell you. Oh, I know. Because I don't want to ruin this stuff. I really want. Up within reach still has wool on it. Not that you can see at all. There we go. I think this is just some fairly fine Jacob. Ooh, then I can wind it off onto it. Every time I'm like, I prepared so well, and then I seem to prepare worse every time. It's very annoying. Chuck, can I wrap it around you? Will you object? Okay, I'll just wrap it around. Actually make it into a ply bracelet before I do that, so that I don't not just like rewinding this a million times. I'll be responsible, I guess. If I have to. Can't wait for the last of the snow to go away so you can find some dry sticks to try whittling spindles. Ooh, nice. That's awesome. I hope you find some good ones. I haven't whittled a spindle in a while at this point. But I also remember waiting for winter to be over for that exact reason. So okay, that wasn't too bad. For some reason, I thought that was going to take me forever. I guess because I'm used to winding off cotton thread, and this is definitely not thread weight. It only took a second. Oh, yep. She's baby. God damn it. Baby. The baby who is making it very difficult to stream due to her propensity to roll. She also rolls off the bed a lot, like once a week. It's a common occurrence. She lacks spatial awareness to a very high degree. I know. Due to her babiness, exactly. I'm glad we're on the same page here. This is nice and smooth. I think it's the Jacob's lamb fleece that I have. If I remember correctly, I was just sort of testing it to see how fine I could get it. This is not very fine, but it is very nice nonetheless. All right, so now I've emptied my other spindle. So that's good. Here's the size comparison, by the way. This is a much bigger spindle. Wow, I love how you can't see a single thing. There we go. Maybe that's easier. There we go. They're not hugely different sizes, but one of them is a bit more refined. Like the one that I'm currently using, I use it more often because it's my favorite. I think it's probably my best made one. But this one should work too, so better work. Sorry about that. All right, so we're gonna try carving a little bit of the sliver. And then after that, I want to try carding this horribly messed up stuff, which again, you can't see at all. God, I'm sorry. But it's like, it's been dyed and it's sort of shriveled all the way up, which is a problem that I've noticed is really easy to have with dyeing cotton, and I don't know how to get around it. But yeah, I want to try that at some point, just under better lighting probably. But anyway, this is what we were working with, just carded. This is what we're going to switch to, is this incredibly crappy Egyptian cotton sliver. I already know that the fibers are thicker, like the micron count is a lot lower. No, lower or higher? Yeah, it's lower. God, I've gone totally insane. I don't even remember anymore. Does one of you remember? Is a low micron count finer or is a high micron count finer? I don't even know anymore. But anyway, this is much thicker. Oh, a high micron count is finer. Okay. Okay. I don't even know what I thought at this point. Good to know. So this has a lower micron count for sure. Because like just visually you can see the fibers are thicker, which is a pretty good indication that the micron count is a lot lower. But also, I know the staple length is shorter. I guess my main question is, does turning it into sliver do something to the cotton that makes it difficult to work with? Or is it just the fact that as a put up, sliver is not good? Because like, it's definitely possible to mess up wool while preparing it to the point that it's not really suitable for as many things anymore. So I guess I'm just wondering if that's also true for cotton. So we'll have to see. Also, I need to do this briefly. I don't know if any of you were here when I was carding the other one. I've already forgotten, but it was difficult. Like it was definitely difficult. So I'm not expecting this to be super easy. The one thing I have going for me is that the sliver is already all opened up and straightened out, so I probably don't need to do very much work. I just need to open it a little bit. But yeah, I've noticed that like they sort of handle opposite to how wool cards handle, which is really weird. That's not what I was expecting. Okay. Again, determines to try and stick a knitting needle up her nose. She's so passionate about it. I also wonder if the way that I roll it, like the direction that I roll it, makes a difference. I'll have to. I don't really want to do it this time because then it won't be very good control, but I'll have to try that at some point. At the moment, I'm rolling it towards me, which is how I always roll them. Like, it's how I roll Rolex too. But I don't know. definitely not any easier. Is what it is. I did learn a few things from the last one. Um, Mainly that you really don't want to go all the way to the edges, but the problem is that I find this happens on my other cards too. It all migrates to one side, and that's gotta just be the motion that I use. It's not usually a problem with wool. Like it doesn't cause any issues with wool, but with this one, because there's the more involved process of like rolling and drafting, um, it does cause a couple more complications here. So I don't know. Okay. Now I know that this isn't going to be identical because I did use less fiber, so this probably won't like literally stay up on its own the way that the other one did. And I think that's more an indication of the fact that I didn't put a lot of fiber on it rather than the quality of the fiber in this case. It's staying up some, but it's definitely drooping faster than the other one did. But yeah, I don't think that part's relevant. It is still nice and smooth, which is good. That was a difficulty on my other hand cards. And I was wondering if that would carry over with worse fiber. Another thing I'm going to have to try is carding some cotton balls. I just have to know, like, can you get something nice out of cotton balls? I know you can spin cotton balls into cotton yarn. I've seen other people do it. I've done a little bit of it myself. It's just not nice. Like it's kind of crappy yarn inherently. All right. I was gonna say moment of truth, but moment of truth comes about 45 seconds from now once I pre-draft and attach this. So not yet. Yeah, I don't know. What are the predictions? Do you think cotton balls can yield nice cotton yarn once carded on actual cotton cards, or do you think that it's going to be bad either way? I think it's going to be bad either way because I feel like the cotton that you get in cotton balls is like exclusively just the absolute cotton waste product, you know? Like that's the stuff that is too short for spinning commercially. That's what I think. At least that's like the cotton balls that I get are that's what they're made of. I don't know. Someone gave you a pack of cotton before you even got a spindle. What you did with it wasn't bad. Yeah. I mean, like I said, you can definitely make yarn, but it's like, can you make literal thread? I'm definitely noticing already. Like with the other one, I was able to pre-draft and get a bit of a slip knot going before I had even added much twist. And in this case, it's totally falling apart. So I do think that it's not going to be as good. Now that I'm adding some twist, it's holding together. Of course. I mean, that was sort of a given. Slowly getting there. "45 seconds" was obviously too optimistic. But 2 minutes. Swear, as my spinning skills get better, my ability to make a slip knot seems to get worse and worse. Don't know why. Oh, wow, it already broke. I'm seeing some clear differences here. Just, yeah, in terms of everything. But it's hard to know how much of it is just the fiber quality. That's the problem. I'm going to try spinning it thicker. And maybe that'll help. I don't know. But like, it's basically just literally falling into bits right now. And it's also getting all fuzzy, like a braiding. This is very validating. God. It's also very frustrating. Okay, come on. Let me actually spin something with this. It's not bad for a thicker yarn, but it's really performing quite badly as a thinner yarn. Um, Weirdly, it's performing worse than it did when I carded it on my normal hand cards. So it's quite possible that there's some serious user error happening here. But I don't know. This is a nice, like, look at that though. It's like the thickest thing I've spun in a while that you probably can't see. Gosh. Well, maybe you can see that. Anyway, yeah, not bad. Now that I can actually draft it, it is much less slubby. So that is a definite win, because one of the big issues that I was having with this fiber is just the sheer amount of slubs. Like, they're constant. Because I just couldn't open it up at all on my other cards. So this isn't anywhere near as lumpy. In fact, I would say it's not lumpy at all. It's also not really working on the spindle, though. I know, you barely see it. Yeah. Ugh. I'm going to try it on my miniature drop spindle, just because it's sitting next to me. I can definitely do a little better. Also, by the way, I finished spinning, god damn it, I finished plying that 2-ply that I was doing earlier, which means that I will be able to hopefully pretty easily, like, directly compare my pre cotton card cotton thread and my post cotton card cotton thread. So that's exciting. But in the meantime, I'm just going to totally cover it up with this thicker cotton this thicker cotton yarn. That's what we can do. It would help if my hands worked, but they don't. Okay. All right, the last time I tried spinning cotton unsupported on a drop spindle was when I was trying to do it on my Turkish spindle, and that one really, really did not work at all. So we'll have to see. It kind of works, but now it's slubby, and it doesn't want to stay spinning for very long, which isn't surprising, that it's cotton. I don't know. Like, it works okay if I'm doing sort of a park and draft situation, but if I'm trying to actually spin, like normally on a drop spindle, it's back to slubs. Well, I'm certainly glad that I didn't buy a whole ton of, because that would have been very upsetting to find out. I think part of the reason that Sliver might just typically be inherently a lot worse is that because it's been processed, there's already an opportunity to have taken out the nice longer fibers for something else. Whereas ginned cotton, I mean, like, it's been processed, but it hasn't been processed in a way where you can separate based on fiber length all that easily. So you're getting all of it. I do wonder whether that actually comes into account at all, like whether the fiber lengths are cherry picked for different things at that stage. Not sure. I could definitely see myself spinning a sweater's worth of yarn at this weight. Like a sweater's worth of cotton yarn, that is. To preface, though, I've never actually knit a sweater, so that's the part that's beyond me. That's what I'm afraid of. I've crocheted a sweater and it was just awful. I donated it. Like, I wore it once. I was like, oh my God. And then I wanted to forget about it, so I donated it, and it probably went into a landfill immediately afterwards. I would be utterly shocked if anybody wanted it for anything. It was pretty bad. um, the sleeves, for example, were way too long, like massively out of proportion with the human body. Not sure how that happened. I'm guessing I forgot to take stretch into account. That's my guess. It's been so long that I don't remember, but it was bad. But I really want to make a sweater at some point. I've like started and not finished multiple sweaters, but I don't think that counts. I think the thing that like is holding me back from trying to make a sweater is that I know what I'll have to do to successfully make a sweater is understand like the shape, the geometry behind it. And to do that, for me anyway, I would need to make several sweaters. And the first couple would probably not be very good at all. And like when it's a sock, at most I will have put, I don't know, like a week into it at most of knitting, but a sweater can be so much more. So, yeah, exactly. Several sweaters is a lot more sweater than one sweater. That's a very, very good way to put it. Like, just so much more time involved. I guess I could make some mini ones, but I don't know. Making like miniature things really only goes so far, like maybe you'll learn about sweater construction, but it won't help you at all for figuring out like, how to stop it from pinching at the armpits or something like that. It won't help you not make a collar that's so tight it won't go over your head. Like you're not going to learn anything about how it actually fits on the human body from making a mini one, and that's definitely a big part of it. It's like how making baby socks only, like, it prepares you for making socks, but it does not prepare you for making socks that fit an adult. Those are very different things. Like baby socks don't, a baby's foot is just sort of a little, it's, it's just like a little round thing, almost, for an adult foot. Honestly, you want better for, maybe I would try. But I also know that you'd be really scathingly mean about handmade sweaters. Because I had several classmates whose parents or grandparents knit them sweaters when I was a kid, and they were like, they hated those, and they were quite vocal about it. So I think I would potentially get really sad. And also, babies famously don't have to walk on their socks. That is another fair point. Yeah, many difference between baby socks and adult socks, or just baby socks and non-baby socks, really. I'm almost done with this terrible little roll lag. I'm definitely gonna finish it, just so that I don't have to spin it anymore. um, and then probably go back to the supported for a little while, but after that, we'll have to go eventually, fortunately. I cleaned my apartment last weekend because one of my coworkers slash friends is going to come over and hang out this Saturday. So I cleaned my apartment, I cleaned my kitchen. It was all looking nice, and then somehow over the course of not even one full week, where I've barely been home at all, and when I am home, I'm usually not conscious, I've managed to once again fully wreck my apartment. I absolutely hate that I do this. I don't know how to not do this. But anyway, I have to clean my apartment again before Saturday, so unfortunately. But not yet though. We got probably like half an hour. It's probably like if I go for a 2-hour stream, that's not bad. Decent amount of spinning. I still don't understand why with cotton, like, it just loses momentum so fast. It doesn't do that with wool. Like, this spindle doesn't do that with wool, and also no spindle I've ever tried does that with wool. But with cotton, like, you get 2 seconds of spinning, if that, and then it's too much twist and it's reversing. And I just don't understand why. I'm also gonna have to at some point actually spin up those bats that I made for the last stream. I spun a little bit even after my internet went down, but I wasn't really feeling spinning on an e-spinner as much. So I ended up just like knitting for the rest of the night instead. Um, which means I have 2 ounces of bats that I need to spin still. I mean, I've turned them into spinnable fiber, which is the hard part, generally speaking, for my stash. Okay, we're gonna 2-ply this, I think, because why not? Just get it over with. I have noticed that this this cotton fiber is also softer when carded on my cotton cards than it was on my normal cards, which is interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that that is true of both. What I really wanted to get was I don't know if you've heard of it, but that like colored cotton, the like not dyed cotton, but cotton that is just naturally already a different color. It just grows that way. I really, really wanted to buy some of that, but I only know a couple places that sell it, and they're all out of stock every time I check. And they were out of stock this time too. So I did not end up doing that. I mean, I guess I need to figure out how to dye cotton at some point anyway. But I would really love, like the colors that it comes in are just so beautiful. Yeah, like it comes in brown, but it also comes in like sort of a dusty red. Um, and there's like a nice green that I've seen. There's some grays. I've never seen blue, but I feel like it's possible it could come in blue. Like, why not? There's yellows. It's all like earth tones, which is that's what I prefer anyway. And yeah, it's just gorgeous. And of course, it never fades because that's just the natural color of the cotton. Or if it does fade, it doesn't fade significantly. I've never actually gotten to use this stuff because I can never fucking find it for sale. But at a certain point, I hope so. It's also usually way more expensive than normal white cotton, which makes sense because it's a specialty thing. And like, I can't imagine that there's a very good reason for anyone other than hand spinners to want to buy it. You could buy dyed cotton in every color under the sun. So it's probably a really niche market. But I'd like to, if I can ever find any for sale at any point, I would like to at least make it up to like, or buy enough to make like a hat or something, or a nice pair of summer gloves. I don't know, something. I know the red always looks pretty. I don't know how pretty it is in person, but I'm sure very pretty. Yeah. It's a little pretty chunky 2-ply for me, which is not a complaint at all. And it's also a pretty even cotton spin for me, considering that it's not thread, which is the only thing I really have practice with at the moment. Okay. I wonder if it can be seen at all. Kind of. In a raking light, kind of. But yeah, I mean, it's thick enough that you can see the individual yarns, so, or individual strands. And it's still really soft. Like, if this were wool, I'd be like, damn, this is a nice soft wool. Again, totally unlike commercial cotton, even though it's fairly thick. I really don't understand that. Yeah. All right, back to my beautiful, wonderful, incredibly thin thread spinning. Actually, I'm gonna turn on the light. It's gotten dark enough now that I just realized I can't see where the connects to the puni at all. So give me a second. I'm gonna sort of turn the screen down a bit. Thankfully, my light switch is right by my bed, so move a tiny bit. All right, we're back. Now you can easily see how much of a mess my room is, which is exactly why I didn't turn it on earlier. That's fine. Ooh, I guess now that it's a little bit brighter, I can, yeah, show you way, way easier what it looks like. Like, is it good? No. But is it better than what I would achieve without cotton cards? Absolutely. Yes, more importantly, you can easily see the baby. I don't know why I'm even focusing on the yarn when she is the star of the show. Yeah, so anyway, this versus to get it so much closer. Can you see it? I can kind of see it. It's about spiderweb thinness. And I have similar difficulty seeing spider webs, so that makes sense. Yeah, I know. I am pleased. It is a cobweb. I'm so happy. Now that the light's on, I bet I could spin it even thinner too. Like the thing that was setting how thick I was spinning it earlier was the fact that that was about as much as I could see. So I bet if I got one of those goofy like magnifying stands, I could really like I could really make something actually invisible. Now that I've thought of that, I have to try it at some point. That could be comical. I'm just so endlessly entertained by how thin this is. Like, highly recommend. Oh, my eyes hurt so bad though right now. Okay. Sunglasses time. I also put my sunglasses out of reach. in the long list of things that I put out of reach in preparation for my stream. Okay, I've learned a very clear lesson here, which is turn the goddamn lights on next time. Because I can still see better with my sunglasses on and the lights on than I could with no lights and no sunglasses. So, like, not a ton better, but somewhat better. And every bit counts. I think I also need a dark colored background because I can see it, like I can consistently see it when it's over the darkest part of the bowl, and I can consistently not see it when it's on the much lighter, like wood color of my lap desk thing. So I think having a black background would be super advantageous in this respect. But also rapidly become covered in Chuck's fur. But that is a sacrifice I am willing to make. So grumpy. She's like, nobody can see me now. Also, I think her catnip wore off. So she's grumpy due to that. I'm destroying my blanket again. She keeps like digging her claws into my blanket. And then gets her claws stuck and then pulls out strands of the blanket, which is somewhat frustrating. But also it's such a good summer blanket, and it is now summer here. Or at least it's warm enough that it feels like summer blankets are necessary. But I will probably not put my blankets away. See, what I really want to make is a cotton thread summer blanket. But even just saying that sounds like absolute insanity. So I don't think that's happening. Like, even a non-hand spun cotton thread blanket sounds terrible. But then adding spinning that to the mix, and it's like, I don't think I'd ever finish that. I could probably work on it every waking moment for like a decade and not finish it. So probably will not do that, but I will be forever tempted by it. I've seen people like weave them, but I genuinely do not understand how people are able to weave with such fine yarn. Like, it's already pretty difficult with fingering weight yarn. Not the actual weaving, but the threading of the heddles, already difficult enough with fingering weight yarn. Once the yarn starts getting difficult to see, like it reaches a level of weaving skills that are like completely alien to me. I'm not much of a weaver anyway. Like the number of hours I've put into weaving versus most other crafts is very low. But nonetheless, oh my gosh. It's like a splinter. Definitely need to sand this again later. Setting the loom up must take forever. Yeah. Like, it feels like it takes forever, even, feels like it takes forever no matter what weight of yarn you're using. So when it gets to, like, you know, 100 strands per inch or some insane shit like that, I don't even know. Like, I can't fathom how long it would take. I measured, or timed rather, I timed myself, like just threading the heddles of my floor loom, which has a weaving surface of like, I think 3 feet, so about a yard / a meter. And that was with, I think it's like a 10 dent reed. Like, it's pretty big, all things considered, even though it's long. And it was, it took me like 5 fucking hours just to do one step in the weaving process on yarn that is probably 100 times or 100 times thicker. So yeah, I don't even know. I can feel myself backsliding with the thickness of this, as my eyes have gotten really tired and I really can't see, even though the lights are on. My eyes have stopped working. So I think I'm gonna stop spinning this and I'm gonna try, we'll do one last thing before I end the stream. It is a lot of threads. We're gonna do one last thing, which is I want to try. She's like, you're putting your hand over here to pet me, but I'm not. It's for other reasons, Joe. I want to see what happens to this fiber that I sort of destroyed. Or at least I want to see if I destroyed this fiber. So I guess now that the lights are on, it's actually worth showing to you guys. This is the color it was originally. This is the color I dyed it to. It's sort of just gray. That was not what I was going for, but that's what it was. That's how it ended up. It's gray. And I'm gonna take, I dyed both the ginned cotton and the cotton sliver. I tried a piece of each. I'm gonna try carding the cotton sliver and see what happens. See if it like becomes spinnable again. And I want to try the sliver so that I can just make a little sample of it, because that won't take too long on my drop spindle. So we'll have to see. I'm also going to try really hard to limit like how much space I'm taking up, because I've definitely found that too little fiber just really doesn't make a good puni at all. Like, the fact that you're compressing it and the fact that there's a lot of friction is really what makes it work. So I'm going to try and improve my technique at the same time. We'll have to see. In this light, it looks a little green, which I like. It is sort of green, yeah. This stuff, I think, I know I dyed it with buckthorn berries. What I don't remember is whether I dyed it with the skin or whether I dyed it with the flesh. If I dyed it with the flesh, then this is just the color it always was. If I dyed it with the skin, then it's faded considerably. There's not really any way to know until I find both. I've only found one, so I have no idea which one it is. But I do remember that the flesh made a nice sort of like paisley color. This seems to be opening up. Like, not It's not, it's definitely taking more passes than the undyed sliver was, but that makes total sense. So that's cool. Because I've never found a way to card cotton where it doesn't shrivel, not card, never found a way to dye cotton where it doesn't shrivel up like that. I'm sure there is a way to do it, but it's good to know that the fact that it has shriveled up doesn't mean that it's like unusable. Now, whether it's the same quality or not, that's hard to say. Because dyeing can very much damage fibers. It's pretty easy to slightly damage your wool fibers when dyeing them, so I wouldn't be shocked if the same is true for cotton. There are a couple of little bits of, it looks like sort of solids from the dye bath that clearly dried onto the cotton, and they're not coming out when I card them. It's possible the teeth are just too fine for that, which is a new problem. Usually it's that they're not fine enough. Okay. I think that's good enough. There we go. And we're just gonna see, I'm just gonna spin up this little sample and we'll just see how much harder or easier it is. Well, no, it's not gonna be easier. How much harder it is. And whether it's like noticeably worse in any way to the other sliver that I just did. It's definitely lumpier though. I'm already seeing some lumps just as I sort of like drafted off the cards, which means I probably needed to process it more. But I will say that it looked as processed as the other stuff did, and that was not lumpy. So have to keep an eye on that. Gotta go make dinner pretty soon. Fair enough. Thank you for stopping by for quite a while. Stopping by is the wrong word. But yeah, it's been a good stream. Appreciate you joining in. I'll be here for another probably like 5-10 minutes just while I finish this off, and then I too must make dinner and clean. I hope you have a good night. Okay. It definitely gets easier as I get down to the bottom of the cards. And I kind of wonder like if I can capitalize on that somehow and sort of like manage to get all of it onto the bottom by the time that I'm done carding it. Like that would be ideal. I don't know how to achieve that because I've never ever tried. Because that's like the opposite of what you want normally. Okay. Looks a lot more green now. Like the more I do with it, the greener it looks. Not a problem though. She has to investigate. She has to know. Where'd my drop spindle go though? Disappeared. Oh, it's over here. Okay. It did not disappear. This is promising. Doesn't feel very different at all. Like it's slightly more toothsome, which I don't find shocking because I did dye it. So that means it was exposed to a mordant. Mordants do tend to harsh fibers a bit, um, even when used in moderation. They tend to harsh a tiny bit. So I expected that. But it's not actually like harsh. It's just a little more textured, which means it's still perfectly usable. But there are definitely bits. I think it is solids from the dye bath. There are bits. Oh, hi, Chuck. Here you are. Hello. What are you doing? I don't think I need you investigating my cotton, dude. Can you move? No. Sorry, buddy. Here we go. On claws. I know it's indignant. Buddy, no. Well, there she is. If you needed a close up on the top of her head and her cute little face. She's watching the stream. She's fascinated. Absolutely fascinated. Indeed. Gotcha. I got a big mirror yesterday, or not yesterday, a couple weeks ago. I got a big mirror from the trash room that was in perfectly fine condition and clearly just something that people who are moving did not want to bring with them. So I was like, sure, I'll take a mirror. And it's floor length. It's like a nice, like, standing mirror, basically. So I brought it into my apartment. I was planning on putting it in my bathroom, but it didn't fit. So at the moment, it's just like sitting in my apartment. And I think my cat is having existential crises about it. Um, because she'll walk up to it and she'll watch it and she'll like poke it and walk around it and then watch it some more. And it's clearly freaking her out. And I've started having to cover it when I leave because I'm worried she's gonna like knock it over or something because it agitates her so much. Oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe she is just investigating. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, she started getting into images of herself in terms of finding them very interesting. So I think she was watching herself on stream for a couple seconds there. That's where I was going with that. Or at least I wouldn't be surprised if she was. But yeah, I've managed to give my cat existential crises by bringing in the trash mirror. I should have known. So I think I needed to work more on actually carding it. That seems fairly clear to me is that this needed another few passes because it's definitely lumpier. So even though I got it to a point where I thought it was okay, it seems like the dyed stuff might need a couple passes after that, which I will definitely make a note of. I often make notes to myself on stream because I sometimes go back and rewatch my streams, or like listen to them if I'm incredibly bored. Usually, I have better things to pay attention to than a stream that I performed. Um, but not always. So sometimes I go back and watch them, especially if I like felt like I learned a lot in that stream. Then there's a decent reason to actually go back to it. And I have a feeling I'm going to be rewatching this one because I'm learning a ton. I haven't had a good fiber experimenting session in a long time. Like, there's definitely something for me that's different from, like, between just spinning or fiber prep or whatever and experimenting. They're very different, and I enjoy them both, but I really enjoy experimenting. It's like enrichment in the enclosure, you know? Born to be a mad scientist, forced to work. Before I got into fiber arts, I did light the front yard on fire a couple times. So um, it's a good thing that I got into a non-destructive hobby as a teenager, because imagine like how much worse it could have gotten if I started off as a teenager lighting the front yard on fire multiple times. Actually, I feel like getting into fiber arts fully cured me of some latent pyromania that I had as a child. I don't know why, but it does seem to have done that. I had very little interest in fire as an adult, so that's probably a plus. Spinning is not the worst thing you can do to stuff. So true. You can light it on fire, for example. That's why it's so funny to me when I would get in trouble for fiber arts related things as a teenager. Um, because it's like, I'm sorry, I'm knitting and you're complaining about it when I could be like doing drugs or playing like very dangerous games or skipping school or any of the other things that teenagers classically do. You're complaining about me knitting. I mean, at that point, it was very clear that my parents were insane. Like, I already knew that, but it's so stupid. Cannot imagine complaining about such a thing myself. Why would I get in trouble for that? Well, as I said, my parents were insane. I think the main thing was they were trying to talk to me and I was knitting, and then they got mad because I wasn't paying attention, which was a classic thing for them to get mad about. And then there were other times where I would uh, leave my knitting out, i.e., cause a mess, and they didn't like that either. They were not very good parents, is why they got mad, basically. This is a lot less even. I think it's about to be pretty obvious once I apply it and compare it to the other one. Serious offenses, yes. only the worst of crimes as a teenager. I did do some actually terrible stuff as a teenager, like certainly not a great kid, but knitting was not among them. Almost done with this. Like the constant threat of spinning this spindle the wrong way and not noticing before it all just collapses. Because even though I've been spinning cotton, like I don't know, even though I'm fairly comfortable spinning cotton at this point, um, more so thread weight than this, but I, I still don't know how to fix it when you just sort of disintegrate it on accident. Like I just lose that entire length. It has to be reprocessed. I can fix it on wool, um, and it's not a problem with. I can fix it on wool, um, and it's not a problem with linen. Like there's, you just spin it the other way again. It holds its shape. It's fine. But yeah, with cotton, it's like one wrong move, and I have a pile of fluff again, which I don't want right now. Yeah, I think the fact that I'm like generally delighted when spinning the ginned cotton thread, and generally somewhat frustrated and kind of annoyed when spinning the cotton sliver. Even when I was spinning it like supported, it was still very frustrating. I think that alone makes it pretty clear to me that like the cotton sliver is in some manner or another inferior to the ginned cotton. Whether it is just the staple length or whether it is actually the process of turning it into sliver that makes it worse, I don't yet know. And I don't really think I care to experiment with sliver enough to find out. But I definitely will not be buying more sliver. Just no need. It's not even really cheaper. Like it's cheaper if you're buying a small amount, but cotton is so heavy that damn it, a small amount really doesn't go very far. You know, it does go farther if you're turning it into thread, but not that much farther. So this is falling apart a lot, though. I think because it's slubby, and because the prep's not as good. I hope it's not because it's dyed. I hope it's just because I didn't prepare quite as well as the last one. But we'll have to see when I get to the dyed gin cotton. That is, I think, when I will know. Exactly. Why do that when there's gin? I really like. I don't understand why it even comes in sliver. It makes no sense to me. It's so unintuitive. The only thing that does make sense, like the only reason I can think of maybe why it became literally the most popular way that it seems to be sold, is that hand spinners are already so used to spinning from like a strand of roving that putting it in a familiar looking put up, even though it is massively detrimental to actually spinning it, might get more sales just because you've got a spinner who already knows how to spin roving with no problems. So they're like, well, I'll take the roving rather than the roll lag that looks a bit more unfamiliar, not realizing. That's my only guess. That's the only thing that makes sense to me because it can't possibly be for practicality. There's nothing practical about this. Almost done. Almost there. I feel like I ended up spinning this a lot finer than I meant to, which is cool that I can spin it this fine on a drop spindle, but I wanted to do like a thicker yarn again. So I've already lost the ability to spin thick cotton yarn potentially. We'll have to see if I can do it again later. It's funny like how quickly that thin spinning just creeps up on you every single time. No, this is broken so many times. I don't think I've spun with this much frustration on a drop spindle since I was new to drop spindles. Or I guess since the last time I tried to spin cotton on a drop spindle, more likely. Even this mini one, which weighs comparatively little and is fairly easy to use, it's just so not suited at all. You're starting to doze off, so you'll leave me to it. All right, have a good night as well. Thanks for joining. This has been quite a fun stream. Catch you later, I'm sure. I'm basically done with this. I am going to apply it on stream because why not? But don't let me keep you. Well, I'm going to apply it on stream if I can not totally destroy my blanket with the hook anyway. It's one of the issues I run into specifically with this drop spindle because it's now the only drop spindle that I use and it has a hook, which a lot of my drop spindles haven't over the years. I usually went with a half hitch rather than a hook. I got into it more the more that I spun. Like as time went on, I started really appreciating hooks, but did not find them necessary early in my spinning career. And since I mostly spin on either a wheel or on supported spindles now, I forget that there's a hook there and that I can't just twirl it upside down on my bed or just like let it do its own thing on my bed because it will do the same thing to my blankets that my cat's claws do. So, all right. Well, that's a bit of a fail. you could see it, but when I was making the ply bracelet, I put it in my mouth, but I had just wrapped it around my fingers in such a way that I would not be able to put the end in my mouth and pull it off of my hand. But then I tried to do that anyway, and it just sort of like, I don't know, it didn't work. All right, plying time. It starts out very thick, and I have a feeling it's going to get extremely thin in the middle. I know that I like the yardage is a lot less. So, or not the yardage, but the weight rather. Like I used a lot less fiber to make this batch than I did the other one. But I think the yardage is going to be more. That's what I meant to say. Because I clearly have been spinning it thinner. I feel like I have to pause and think before spinning it every single time to figure out what direction it's supposed to be going in. Just on the drop spindle, not this. This still like as a yarn, it looks nice. I like it. The color's nice. I'm curious how much it will fade. I kind of like. I think I might put it in the sun at some point, or put some amount of this dyed stuff in the sun just to see how much it fades in the sun, or how quickly at least. Because I think that's wrong way. That's going to be valuable knowledge. I found the wool. I mean, obviously it depends on the dyeing method and on how dark it is and on how much time you spend in the sun. But I do find that generally speaking, my dyed wool items start losing their vibrancy after about a year if I wear them outside a lot. Like my hat, for example, that I wear pretty often. It's mostly brown, like just the natural sheep color is mostly brown. But then there's a bit of dyed orange and blue at the top, and red, I think. Wrong way again. God damn it. And that has already faded, and I made it like last fall, I think, if I remember correctly, around last fall. So, and like I haven't worn it in the sun very much. I've worn it outside a lot, but it's been overcast and rainy, so that has faded pretty fast. I imagine cotton fades at a similar rate, but you really never know. And I want to know what the baseline is because this stuff, I know I dyed the way that I dye wool, and I dyed it with a wool mordant too, because I don't have any cotton mordants at the moment. I don't dye cotton, so I just have my wool mordants, and yeah. So I'm curious whether it's worth continuing to use wool mordants at all. Obviously, I need to give cotton mordants a try to know what I'm supposed to like, what the results are supposed to be like. But I often, when I'm dyeing, I often like mordant during the dyeing process. There's a couple of dyes and a couple of mordant combinations where it really doesn't affect it at all if you pre-mordant or if you mordant during the dyeing process. And because pre-mordanting is, I mean, it's an extra step, um, it's just not always necessary. And then if you pre-mordant, or rather if you mordant during, um, that means it's going to be the same mordant for everything. So I would not be able to like mordant during and then decide to toss in a bit of cotton um, if this doesn't work. Like if it fades really fast, or if it's, you know, otherwise very unstable. So that would be an advantage, is that I could use the same bath for everything and continue mordanting during. But I also don't anticipate dyeing a whole lot of wool in the future. Not because I don't like dyeing wool, but just because I run out of wool to dye for the most part. And that's kind of nice. I've run out of wool to dye, and I'm not allowed to buy any more wool until I use up all my wool, and I don't think I ever will. I think at the rate I'm going through it and the amount that I have, yeah, I will not be ever buying any more wool. Oh no, what have I done now? Tangled it. Just wanted to hold them side by side. Fine. Untangling. I also need to figure out how to finish these again, because I haven't been in a while. Ooh, and you know what I totally forgot about until right now is the fact that I've been meaning to try showy milkweed fluff on cotton cards. Like, but I just didn't have any cotton cards. Now I do. Now I can try it. I think it's going to be a lot more spinnable on cotton cards. Like I'm positive. I don't know if it'll be easy, but it's going to be better. Anyway, so here's it's still not, you know, the quality is bad no matter what. My webcam sucks. But you can kind of see the colors. You can kind of see the definition. And it is indeed sort of like a grayish green, which I like. It's a little sagey. I like sage, so it kind of makes me wonder if I could dye cotton with sage. I have access to a ton of it, and that's going to disappear pretty quick. So I kind of want to try if so. Anyway, yeah, here's the sliver, which I carded into punis and then spun on the drop spindle. And then here's the ginned cotton. Honestly, the thread is so fine that you can't see it with this webcam very easily. Like, you can't see the mass of it. You can see the tiny, tiny, as chat said, spider web-ness. You can see that, but you can't actually see the individual fibers or individual threads, which doesn't surprise me because you could barely see it with the much thicker yarn. But yeah, I am very pleased with this experiment. I do need to sand my spindle, though. I don't know what's happening. I'm really worried that it. Oh no. Oh, that's gutting. It's breaking, actually. Well, that's a downer. It's definitely a downer to end the stream on. It's just hollow inside, actually. I'm guessing there must be bug damage that I didn't know about. Man, this is not going to be usable as a spindle really anymore. So that's too bad. So now I really need to figure out how to make some more. But anyway, my cotton cards sure work, and I'm very happy with those. So there is that. I'm sure that I will be doing more cotton spinning in the future. I do have some other things to spin, so it's not like it's going to be cotton from here on out, for sure. But I do really love cotton, and I'm having an easier time with it now than I ever have before, so there will be lots of cotton. So yeah, I'm going to go for the night, but thank you for everyone who stuck through it, and thanks to everybody who watched parts of it, and everyone who commented. Always appreciated. Have a good night. Chuckles says, have a good night.